translation of Sahih Bukhari, Book 74, Asking Permission. Volume 8, Book 74, number 246, narrated Abu Hurairah, the Prophet said, Allah created Adam in his complete shape and form directly, 60 cubits about 30 meters in heights. When he created him, he said to him, "Go and greet that group of angels sitting there, and listen what they will say in reply to you, for that will be your greeting and the greeting of your offspring." Adam went and said, "Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you." They replied, "Assalamu alayka wa rahmatullah, peace and Allah's mercy be on you." So they increased wa rahmatullah. The Prophet added, "So whoever will enter paradise, will be of the shape and form of Adam." Since then the creation of Adam's offspring, that is stature of human beings, is being diminished continuously to the present time. Number 247, narrated Abdullah bin Abbas. Al-Fadl bin Abbas rode behind the Prophet as his companion rider on the back portion of a she-camel on the day of Nahar, slaughtering of sacrifice, 10th Dhul-Hijjah, and Al-Fadl was a handsome man. The Prophet stopped to give the people verdicts. In the meantime, a beautiful woman from the tribe of Katham came, asking the verdict of Allah's apostle. Al-Fadl started looking at her as her beauty attracted him. The Prophet looked behind while Al-Fadl was looking at her. So the Prophet held out his hand backwards and caught the chin of Al-Fadl and turned his face to the owner's sides in order that he should not gaze at her. She said, "O Allah's apostle, the obligation of performing Hajj enjoined by Allah on his worshippers has become due compulsory on my father, who is an old man and who cannot sit firmly on the riding animal. Will it be sufficient that I perform Hajj on his behalf?" He said, "Yes." Number 248, narrated Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. The Prophet said, "Beware. Avoid sitting on the roads." They, the people, said, "O Allah's apostle, we can't help sitting on the roads, as these are our places, here we have talks." The Prophet said, "If you refuse but to sit, then pay the road its right." They said, "What is the right of the road, O Allah's apostle?" He said, "Lowering your gaze, refraining from harming others, returning greeting, and enjoining what is good, and forbidding what is evil." Number 249, narrated Abdullah. When we prayed with the Prophet, we used to say, "As-salam be on Allah from his worshippers, as-salam be on Gabriel, as-salam be on Michael, as-salam be on so-and-so." When the Prophet finished his prayer, he faced us and said, "Allah himself is as-salam, peace." So when one sits in the prayer, one should say, "At-tahiyyatu lillahi wa salatu, wa tayyibatu, as-salamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, as-salamu alayna wa ala ibadillahi as-salihin." For if he says so, then it will be for all the pious slave of Allah in the heavens and the earth. Then he should say, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu," and then he can choose whatever speech, that is invocation, he wishes. See Hadith number 797, Volume 1. Number 250, narrated Abu Hurairah. The Prophet said, "The young should greet the old, the passerby should greet the sitting one, and the small group of persons should greet the large group of persons." Number 251, narrated Abu Hurairah. Allah's apostle said, "The riding one should greet the walking one, and the walking one should greet the sitting one, and the small number of persons should greet the large number of persons." Number 252, narrated Abu Hurairah. Allah's apostle said, "The riding person should greet the walking one, and the walking one should greet the sitting one, and the small number of persons should greet the large number of persons." Number 252e, narrated Abu Hurairah. Allah's apostle said, "The younger person should greet the older one, and the walking person should greet the sitting one, and the small number of persons should greet the large number of persons." Number 253g, narrated Al-Bara bin Azib. Allah's apostle ordered us to do 7 things: to visit the sick, to follow the funeral processions, to say tashmit to a sneezer, to help the weak, to help the oppressed ones, to propagate a salam greeting, and to help others to fulfill their oaths if it is not sinful. He forbade us to drink from silver utensils, to wear gold rings, to ride on silken saddles, to wear silk clothes, dibaj thick silk cloth, kasi and istabrak 2 kinds of silk. See Hadith No. 539, Volume 7. Number 253k, narrated Abdullah bin Amr. a man asked the Prophet, "What Islamic traits are the best?" The Prophet said, "Feed the people, and greet those whom you know and those whom you do not know." Number 254, narrated Abu Ayyub. The Prophet said, "It is not lawful for a Muslim to desert not to speak to his brother Muslim for more than 3 days while meeting. One turns his face to one side and the other turns his face to the other side. Lo! The better of the two is the one who starts greeting the other." Number 255, narrated Anas bin Malik, that he was a boy of 10 at the time when the Prophet emigrated to Medina. He added, "I served Allah's Apostle for 10 years, the last part of his lifetime, and I know more than the people about the occasion whereupon the order of al-hijab was revealed to the Prophet. Ubay bin Ka'b used to ask me about it. It was revealed for the first time during the marriage of Allah's Apostle with Zainab bint Jahsh. In the morning, the Prophet was a bridegroom of her and he invited the people, who took their meals and went away, but a group of them remained with Allah's Apostle and they prolonged their stay. Allah's Apostle got up and went out, and I too went out along with him till he came to the lintel of Aisha's dwelling place. Allah's Apostle thought that those people had left by then, so he returned, and I too returned with him till he entered upon Zainab and found that they were still sitting there and had not yet gone. The Prophet went out again, and so did I with him till he reached the lintel of Aisha's dwelling place, and then he thought that those people must have left by then, so he returned, and so did I with him, and found those people had gone. At that time the divine verse of Al-Hijab was revealed, and the Prophet set a screen between me and him, his family. Number 256, narrated Anas, when the Prophet married Zainab, the people came and were offered a meal, and then they sat down after finishing their meals and started chatting. The Prophet showed as if he wanted to get up, but they did not get up. When he noticed that, he got up, and some of the people also got up and went away, while some others kept on sitting. When the Prophet returned to enter, he found the people still sitting, but then they got up and left. So I told the Prophet of their departure and he came and went in. I intended to go in but the Prophet put a screen between me and him, for Allah revealed, "O you who believe, enter not the Prophet's houses." Quran 33 verse 53. Number 257, narrated Aisha, the wife of the Prophet Umar bin al-Khattab used to say to Allah's Apostle, "Let your wives be veiled," but he did not do so. The wives of the Prophet used to go out to answer the call of nature at night only at al-Manasi. Once Sauda, the daughter of Zam'a, went out and she was a tall woman. Umar bin al-Khattab saw her while he was in a gathering, and said, "I have recognized you, O Sauda." Umar said so as he was anxious for some divine orders regarding the veiling of women. So Allah revealed the verse of veiling. Al-Hijab. A complete body cover excluding the eyes. See Hadith number 148, Volume 1. Number 258, narrated Sahih bin Sa'd, a man peeped through a round hole into the dwelling place of the Prophet, while the Prophet had a midray, an iron comb with which he was scratching his head. The Prophet said, "Had known you were looking through the hole, I would have pierced your eye with it, that is, the comb, verily." The order of taking permission to enter has been enjoined because of that sight, that one should not look unlawfully at the state of others. See Hadith number 807, Volume 7. Number 259, narrated Anas bin Malik, a man peeped into a room of the Prophet. The Prophet stood up, holding an arrowhead. It is as if I am just looking at him, trying to stab the man. Number 260, narrated Ibn Abbas, I have not seen a thing resembling lamam, that is minor sins, than what Abu Hurairah narrated from the Prophet, who said, Allah has written for Adam's son his share of adultery which he commits inevitably. The adultery of the eyes is the sight to gaze at a forbidden thing, the adultery of the tongue is the talk, and the inner self wishes and desires and the private parts testify all this or deny it. Number 261, narrated Anas, whenever Allah's Apostle greeted somebody, he used to greet him 3 times, and if he spoke a sentence, he used to repeat it thrice. Number 262, narrated Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, while I was present in one of the gatherings of the Ansar, Abu Musa came as if he was scared, and said, I asked permission to enter upon Umar 3 times, but I was not given the permission, so I returned. When Umar came to know about it, he said to Abu Musa, "Why did you not enter?" Abu Musa replied, "I asked permission 3 times, and I was not given it, so I returned." For Allah's Apostle said, "If anyone of you asks the permission to enter thrice, and the permission is not given, then he should return." Umar said, "By Allah, we will ask Abu Musa to bring witnesses for it." Abu Musa went to a gathering of the Ansar and said, "Did anyone of you hear this from the Prophet?" Ubay bin Ka'b said, "By Allah, none will go with you but the youngest of the people as a witness." Abu Sa'id was the youngest of them, so I went with Abu Musa and informed Umar that the Prophet had said so. See Hadith number 277, Volume 3. Number 263, narrated Abu Hurairah, I entered the house along with Allah's Apostle. There he found milk in a basin. He said, "O Abu Hurairah, go and call the people of Sufa to me." I went to them and invited them. They came and asked permission to enter, and when it was given, they entered. See Hadith number 459 for details. Number 264, narrated Anas bin Malik, that he passed by a group of boys and greeted them and said, "The Prophet used to do so." Number 265, narrated Abu Hazim, Sahal said, "We used to feel happy on Fridays." I asked Sahal, "Why?" He said, "There was an old woman of our acquaintance who used to send somebody to Budayah ibn Maslama said, Budayah was a garden of date palms at Medina. She used to pull out the silk, a kind of vegetable, from its roots and put it in a cooking pot, adding some powdered barley over it and cook it. After finishing the Jumu'ah Friday prayer we used to pass by her and greet her, whereupon she would present us with that meal, so we used to feel happy because of that. We used to have neither a midday nap, nor meals, except after the Friday prayer." See Hadith number 60, Volume 2. Number 266, narrated Aisha, Allah's Apostle said, "O Aisha, this is Gabriel sending his greetings to you." I said, "Peace and Allah's mercy be on him." Gabriel, "You see what we do not see." She was addressing Allah's Apostle. Number 267, narrated Jabir, I came to the Prophet in order to consult him regarding my father's debt. When I knocked on the door, he asked, "Who is that?" I replied, "I." He said, I. He repeated it as if he disliked it. Number 268, narrated Abu Hurairah, a man entered the mosque while Allah's Apostle was sitting in one side of the mosque. The man prayed, came, and greeted the Prophet. Allah's Apostle said to him, "Wa alayka salam," returned his greeting, "Go back and pray as you have not prayed properly." The man returned, repeated his prayer, came back and greeted the Prophet. The Prophet said, "Wa alayka salam," returned his greeting, "Go back and pray again as you have not prayed properly." The man said at the second or third time, "O Allah's Apostle, kindly teach me how to pray." The Prophet said, "When you stand for prayer, perform ablution properly and then face the Qibla and say Takbir, Allahu Akbar, and then recite what you know from the Quran, and then bow with calmness till you feel at ease, then rise from bowing, till you stand straight, and then prostrate calmly and remain in prostration till you feel at ease, and then raise your head and sit with calmness till you feel at ease, and then prostrate with calmness and remain in prostration till you feel at ease, and then raise your head and sit with calmness till you feel at ease in the sitting position, and do likewise in whole of your prayer." And Abu Usama added, "Till you stand straight." See Hadith number 759, Volume 1. Number 269, narrated Abu Hurairah, the Prophet said in the above narration number 268, "And then raise your head till you feel at ease while sitting." Number 270, narrated Aisha, that the Prophet said to her, "Gabriel sends salam greetings to you." She replied, "Wa alayhi salam wa rahmatullah. Peace and Allah's mercy be on him." Number 271, narrated Urwa bin Zubair, Usama bin Zayd said, "The Prophet rode over a donkey with a saddle underneath which there was a thick soft fatakia velvet sheet. Usama bin Zayd was his companion rider, and he was going to pay a visit to Sa'd bin Ubadah, who was sick at the dwelling place of Bani al-Harith bin al-Khazraj, and this incident happened before the Battle of Badr. The Prophet passed by a gathering in which there were Muslims and pagan idolaters and Jews, and among them there was Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul, and there was Abdullah bin Rawayah too. When a cloud of dust raised by the animal covered that gathering, Abdullah bin Ubay covered his nose with his rita, that is, sheet, and said to the Prophet, "Don't cover us with dust." The Prophet greeted them and then stopped, dismounted and invited them to Allah, that is to embrace Islam, and also recited to them the Holy Quran. Abdullah bin Ubay bin Salul said, "O man, there is nothing better than what you say, if what you say is the truth. So do not trouble us in our gatherings. Go back to your mount or house, and if anyone of us comes to you, tell your tales to him." On that Abdullah bin Rawayah said, "O Allah's Apostle, come to us and bring it what you want to say in our gatherings, for we love that." So the Muslims, the pagans and the Jews started quarreling till they were about to fight and clash with one another. The Prophet kept on quietening them till they all became quiet. He then rode his animal, and proceeded till he entered upon Sa'd bin Ubadah. He said, "O Sa'd, didn't you hear what Abu Habab said?" He meant Abdullah bin Ubay. He said so and so. Sa'd bin Ubadah said, "O Allah's Apostle, excuse and forgive him, for by Allah, Allah has given you what he has given you." The people of this town decided to crown him as their chief and make him their king. But when Allah prevented that with the truth which he had given you, it choked him, and that was what made him behave in the way you saw him behaving. So the Prophet excused him. Number 272, narrated Abdullah bin Ka'b, I heard Ka'b bin Malik narrating when he did not join the Battle of Tabuk. Allah's Apostle forbade all the Muslims to speak to us. I would come to Allah's Apostle and greet him, and I would wonder whether the Prophet did move his lips to return to my greetings or not till 50 nights passed away. The Prophet then announced to the people Allah's forgiveness for us, acceptance of our repentance at the time when he had offered the Fajr morning prayer. Number 273, narrated Aisha, a group of Jews came to Allah's Apostle and said, "Assalamu alayka, death be on you," and I understood it and said to them, "Alaykum assalamu wallana, death and curse be on you." Allah's Apostle said, "Be calm, O Aisha, for Allah loves that one should be kind and lenient in all matters." I said, "O Allah's Apostle, haven't you heard what they have said?" Allah's Apostle said, "I have already said to them, Alaykum, upon you." Number 274, narrated Abdullah bin Umar, Allah's Apostle said, "When the Jews greet you, they usually say, Assalamu alaykum, death be on you, so you should say in reply to them, Wa alaykum, and on you." Number 275, narrated Anas bin Malik, the Prophet said, "If the people of the scripture greet you, then you should say in reply, Wa alaykum, and on you." Number 276, narrated Ali, Allah's Apostle sent me, as Zubair bin Alawim and Abu Marthad al-Ganawi, and all of us were horsemen, and he said, "Proceed till you reach Ridak, where there is a woman from the pagans carrying a letter sent by Hadib bin Abi Baltaya to the pagans of Mecca, so we overtook her while she was proceeding on her camel at the same place as Allah's Apostle told us. We said to her, 'Where is the letter which is with you?' She said, 'I have no letter with me.' So we made her camel kneel down and searched her mount, baggage, etc., but could not find anything. My two companions says, 'We do not see any letter.' I said, 'I know that Allah's Apostle did not tell a lie. By Allah, if you the lady do not bring out the letter, I will strip you of your clothes.' When she noticed that I was serious, she put her hand into the knot of her waist sheet, for she was tying a sheet round herself, and brought out the letter. So we proceeded to Allah's Apostle with the letter. The Prophet said to Habib, 'What made you what you have done, O Hadib?' Hadib replied, 'I have done nothing except that I believe in Allah and His Apostle, and I have not changed or altered my religion, but I wanted to do the favor to the people, pagans of Mecca, through which Allah might protect my family and my property, as there is none among your companions but has someone in Mecca through whom Allah protects his property against harm.' The Prophet said, 'Habib has told you the truth, so do not say to him anything but good.' Umar bin al-Khattab said, 'Verily he has betrayed Allah, His Apostle, and the believers. Allow me to chop his neck off.' The Prophet said, 'O Umar, what do you know? Perhaps Allah looked upon the Badr warriors and said, Do whatever you like, for I have ordained that you will be in paradise." On that Umar wept and said, "Allah and his apostle know best." Number 277, narrated Abu Sufyan bin Harb, that Heraclius had sent for him to come along with a group of the Quraysh who were trading in Sham, and they came to him. Then Abu Sufyan mentioned the whole narration and said, "Heraclius asked for the letter of Allah's apostle. When the letter was read, its contents were as follows: In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. From Muhammad, Allah's slave and his apostle, to Heraclius, the chief of Byzantines. Peace be upon him who follows the right path guidance. Amma Badu, to proceed see Hadith number 6, volume 1 for details." Number 278, narrated Abu Sa'id, the people of the tribe of Kurza agreed upon to accept the verdict of Sa'd. The Prophet sent for him Sa'd and he came. The Prophet said to those people, "Get up for your chief or the best among you." Sa'd sat beside the Prophet and the Prophet said to him, "These people have agreed to accept your verdict." Sa'd said, "So I give my judgment that their warriors should be killed and their women and children should be taken as captives." The Prophet said, "You have judged according to the king's Allah's judgment." See Hadith number 447, volume 5. Number 279, narrated Qatada, I asked Anas, "Was it a custom of the companions of the Prophet to shake hands with one another?" He said, "Yes." Number 280, narrated Abdullah bin Hisham, "We were in the company of the Prophet and he was holding the hand of Umar bin al-Khattab." Number 281, narrated Ibn Mas'ud, "Allah's apostle taught me the tashahhud as he taught me a surah from the Quran, while my hand was between his hands." Tashahhud was all the best compliments and the prayers and the good things are for Allah. Peace and Allah's mercy and blessings be on you, O Prophet. Peace be on us and on the pious slaves of Allah. I testify that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and I also testify that Muhammad is Allah's slave and his apostle. We used to recite this in the prayer during the lifetime of the Prophet, but when he had died, we used to say, "Peace be on the Prophet." Number 282, narrated Abdullah bin Abbas, Ali bin Abu Talib came out of the house of the Prophet during his fatal ailment. The people asked Ali, "O Abu Hassan, how is the health of Allah's apostle this morning?" Ali said, "This morning he is better, with the grace of Allah." Al-Abbas held Ali by the hand and said, "Don't you see him about to die? By Allah, within 3 days you will be the slave of the stick, that is, under the command of another ruler. By Allah, I think that Allah's apostle will die from his present ailment, for I know the signs of death on the faces of the offspring of Abdul Muttalib. So let us go to Allah's apostle to ask him who will take over the caliphate. If the authority is given to us, we will know it, and if it is given to somebody else we will request him to recommend us to him." Ali said, "By Allah, if we ask Allah's apostle for the rulership and he refuses, then the people will never give it to us. Besides, I will never ask Allah's apostle for it." See Hadith number 728, volume 5. Number 283, narrated Mu'adh, "While I was a companion rider with the Prophet he said, 'O Mu'adh.' I replied, 'Labbaik wa sadaik.' He repeated this call 3 times and then said, 'Do you know what Allah's right on his slaves is?' I replied, 'No.' He said, 'Allah's right on his slaves is that they should worship him alone and should not join partners in worship with him.' He said, 'O Mu'adh.' I replied, 'Labbaik wa sadaik.' He said, 'Do you know what the right of Allah's slaves on Allah is, if they do that worship him alone and join none in his worship? It is that he will not punish them.'" Number 285, narrated Abu Dar, "While I was walking with the Prophet at the Hura of Medina in the evening, the mountain of Uhud appeared before us. The Prophet said, 'O Abu Dar, I would not like to have gold equal to Uhud mountain for me, unless nothing of it, not even a single dinar remains of it with me, for more than 1 day or 3 days, except that single dinar which I will keep for repaying debts. I will spend all of it, the whole amount, among Allah's slaves like this and like this and like this.'" The Prophet pointed out with his hand to illustrate it and then said, "O Abu Dar." I replied, "Labbaik wa sadaik, O Allah's apostle." He said, Those who have much wealth in this world will be the least rewarded in the hereafter, except those who do like this and like this, that is, spend their money in charity. Then he ordered me, remain at your place and do not leave it, O Abu Dhar, till I come back. He went away till he disappeared from me. Then I heard a voice and feared that something might have happened to Allah's apostle, and I intended to go to find out, but I remembered the statement of Allah's apostle that I should not leave my place, so I kept on waiting, and after a while the Prophet came, and I said to him, O Allah's apostle, I heard a voice and I was afraid that something might have happened to you, but then I remembered your statement and stayed there. The Prophet said, that was Gabriel who came to me and informed me that whoever among my followers died without joining others in worship with Allah, would enter paradise. I said, O Allah's apostle, even if he had committed illegal sexual intercourse and theft? He said, even if he had committed illegal sexual intercourse and theft. Number 286, narrated Ibn Umar, the Prophet said, a man should not make another man get up from the ladder seat in a gathering in order to sit there. Number 287, narrated Ibn Umar, the Prophet forbade that a man should be made to get up from a seat so that another might sit on it, but one should make room and spread out. Ibn Umar disliked that a man should get up from a seat and then somebody else sit at his place. Number 288, narrated Anas bin Malik, when Allah's apostle married Zainab bint Jahsh, he invited the people who took their meals and then remained sitting and talking. The Prophet pretended to be ready to get up, but the people did not get up. When he noticed that, he got up, and when he had got up, some of those people got up along with him, and there remained 3 who kept on sitting. Then the Prophet came back and found those people still sitting. Later on those people got up and went away. So I went to the Prophet and informed him that they had left. The Prophet came and entered his house. I wanted to enter along with him, but he dropped a curtain between me and him. Allah then revealed, O you who believe, do not enter the Prophet's houses until leave is given to his statement, verily, that shall be an enormity in Allah's sight. Quran 33 verse 53. Number 289, narrated Ibn Umar, I saw Allah's apostle in the courtyard of the Kaaba in the Itiba posture, putting his hand round his legs like this. Number 290, narrated Abu Bakr, Allah's apostle said, shall I inform you of the biggest of the great sins? They said, yes, O Allah's apostle. He said, to join partners in worship with Allah, and to be undutiful to one's parents. Number 291, narrated Bashir, as above. Number 290, adding, the Prophet was reclining leaning, and then he sat up saying, and I warn you against giving a false statement. And he kept on saying that warning so much so that we said, would that he had stopped. Number 292, narrated Uqba bin al-Harith, once the Prophet offered the Asr prayer and then he walked quickly and entered his house. Number 293, narrated Aisha, Allah's apostle used to offer his prayer while standing in the midst of the bed, and I used to lie in front of him between him and the Qibla if I had any necessity for getting up, and I used to dislike to get up and face him while he was in prayer, but I would gradually slip away from the bed. Number 294, narrated Abdullah bin Amr, the news of my fasting was mentioned to the Prophet, so he entered upon me and I put for him a leather cushion stuffed with palm fibers. The Prophet sat on the floor and the cushion was between me and him. He said to me, isn't it sufficient for you that you fast 3 days a month? I said, O Allah's apostle, I can fast more than this. He said, you may fast 5 days a month. I said, O Allah's apostle, I can fast more than this. He said, you may fast 7 days. I said, O Allah's apostle. He said, 9. I said, O Allah's apostle. He said, 11. I said, O Allah's apostle. He said, no fasting is superior to the fasting of the Prophet David, which was 1/2 of a year, and he used to fast on alternate days. See Hadith number 300, Volume 3. Number 295, narrated Ibrahim, Al-Qama went to Sham and came to the mosque and offered a 2-rakat prayer, and invoked Allah. O Allah, bless me with a pious good companion. So he sat beside Abu Darda, who asked, from where are you? He said, from the people of Kufa. Abu Darda said, "Wasn't there among you the person who keeps the secrets of the Prophet which nobody knew except him, that is, Hudayfa bin al-Yaman, and isn't there among you the person whom Allah gave refuge from Satan through the request tongue of Allah's apostle? That is, Amr, isn't there among you the one who used to carry the siwak and the cushion or pillows of the prophets? That is Ibn Mas'ud. How did Ibn Mas'ud used to recite by the night as it conceals the light?" Chapter 92. Alqama said, "Wad Dakari Walanthi, that isn't by male and female." Abu Darda added, "These people continued to argue with me regarding it till they were about to cause me to have doubts, although I heard it from Allah's apostle." Number 296, narrated Sahih bin Sa'd, "We used to have a midday nap and take our meals after the Jumu'ah prayer." Number 297, narrated Sahih bin Sa'd, "There was no name dearer to Ali than his nickname Abu Turab, the father of dust. He used to feel happy whenever he was called by this name." Once Allah's apostle came to the house of Fatima but did not find Ali in the house. So he asked, "Where is your cousin?" She replied, "There was a quarrel between me and him," whereupon he got angry with me and went out without having a midday nap in my house. Allah's apostle asked a person to look for him. That person came, and said, "O Allah's apostle, Ali is sleeping in the mosque." So Allah's apostle went there and found him lying. His upper body cover had fallen off to one side of his body, and so he was covered with dust. Allah's apostle started cleaning the dust from him, saying, "Get up, O Abu Turab! Get up, Abu Turab!" See Hadith number 432, Volume 1. Number 298, narrated Thumama, Anas said, Sulaim used to spread a leather sheet for the Prophet and he used to take a midday nap on that leather sheet at her home. Anas added, when the Prophet had slept, she would take some of his sweat and hair and collect the sweat in a bottle and then mix it with a kind of perfume while he was still sleeping. When the death of Anas bin Malik approached, he advised that some of that be mixed with his hanat perfume for embalming the dead body, and it was mixed with his hanat. Number 299, narrated Anas bin Malik, whenever Allah's apostle went to Kuba, he used to visit Haram bint Milhan who would offer him meals. And she was the wife of Abada bin as-Samit. One day he went to her house and she offered him a meal, and after that he slept, and then woke up smiling. She Haram said, I asked him, what makes you laugh, O Allah's apostle? He said, some people of my followers were displayed before me as warriors fighting for Allah's cause and sailing over the sea, kings on thrones, were said, like kings on thrones. The narrator, Ishaq, is in doubt about it. Haram said, O Allah's apostle, invoke Allah that he may make me one of them. He invoked Allah for her and then lay his head and slept again and then woke up smiling. I asked, what makes you laugh, O Allah's apostle? He said, some people of my followers were displayed before me as warriors fighting for Allah's cause and sailing over the sea, kings on the thrones, were said, like kings on the thrones. Haram said, O Allah's apostle, invoke Allah that he may make me one of them. He said, you will be amongst the first ones. It is said that Haram sailed over the sea at the time of Muawiyah, and on coming out of the sea, she fell down from her riding animal and died. Number 300, narrated Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, the Prophet forbade two kinds of dresses and two kinds of bargains. Ishtimal asama and alitiba in one garment with no part of it covering one's private parts. The two kinds of bargains were al-mulamasa and al-munabadha. Number 301, narrated Aisha, he added, but this year he reviewed it with me twice, and therefore I think that my time of death has approached. So, be afraid of Allah, and be patient, for I am the best predecessor for you in the hereafter. Fatima added, so I wept as you Aisha witnessed. And when the Prophet saw me in this sorrowful state, he confided the second secret to me saying, O Fatima, will you not be pleased that you will be chief of all the believing women or chief of the women of this nation that is my followers? Number 302, narrated the uncle of Abbas bin Tamim, I saw Allah's apostle lying on his back in the mosque and putting one of his legs over the other. Number 303, narrated Abdullah, the Prophet said, when 3 persons are together, then no 2 of them should hold secret counsel excluding the third person. Number 304, narrated Anas bin Malik, the Prophet confided to me a secret which I did not disclose to anybody after him. And Sulaim asked me about that secret but I did not tell her. Number 305, narrated Abdullah, the Prophet said, when you are 3 persons sitting together, then no 2 of you should hold secret counsel excluding the third person until you are with some other people too, for that would grieve him. Number 306, narrated Abdullah, one day the Prophet divided and distributed something amongst the people whereupon an Ansari man said, in this division Allah's countenance has not been sought. I said, by Allah I will go and inform the Prophet. So I went to him while he was with a group of people, and I secretly informed him of that, whereupon he became so angry that his face became red, and he then said, may Allah bestow His mercy on Moses for he was hurt more than that, yet he remained patient. Number 307, narrated Anas, the Iqamah for the prayer was announced while a man was talking to Allah's apostle privately. He continued talking in that way till the Prophet's companions slept, and afterwards the Prophet got up and offered the prayer with them. Number 308, narrated Salim's father, the Prophet said, do not keep the fire burning in your houses when you go to bed. Number 309, narrated Abu Musa, one night a house in Medina was burnt with its occupants. The Prophet spoke about them, saying, this fire is indeed your enemy, so whenever you go to bed, put it out to protect yourselves. Number 310, narrated Jabir bin Abdullah, Allah's apostle said, at bedtime cover the utensils, close the doors, and put out the lights, lest the evil creature the rat should pull away the wick and thus burn the people of the house. Number 311, narrated Jabir, Allah's apostle said, when you intend going to bed at night, put out the lights, close the doors, tie the mouths of the water skins, and cover your food and drinks. Hammam said, I think he. The other narrator added, even with piece of wood across the utensil. Number 312, narrated Abu Hurairah, the Prophet said 5 things are in accordance with al-fitra, that is the tradition of prophets, to be circumcised, to shave the pelvic region, to pull out the hair of the armpits, to cut short the mustaches, and to clip the nails. Number 313, narrated Abu Hurairah, Allah's apostle said the Prophet Abraham circumcised himself after he had passed the age of 80 years and he circumcised himself with an adze. Narrated Said bin Jubair. Ibn Abbas was asked, how old were you when the Prophet died? He replied, at that time I had been circumcised. At that time, people did not circumcise the boys till they attained the age of puberty. Sayyid bin Jubair said, Ibn Abbas said, when the Prophet died, I had already been circumcised. Number 314, narrated Abu Hurairah, Allah's apostle said, whoever among you takes an oath wherein he says, by Allah and Al-Uzza, names of 2 idols worshipped by the pagans, he should say, none has the right to be worshipped but Allah. And whoever says to his friend, come, let me gamble with you, he should give something in charity. See Hadith number 645. Number 315, narrated Ibn Umar, during the lifetime of the Prophet I built a house with my own hand so that it might protect me from the rain and shade me from the sun. And none of Allah's creatures assisted me in building it. Number 316, narrated, Amr ibn Umar said, by Allah, I have not put a brick over a brick that is constructed a building or planted any date palm tree since the death of the Prophet. Sufyan the sub-narrator said, I told this narration of Ibn Umar to one of his Ibn Umar's relatives, and he said, by Allah, he did build something. Sufyan added, I said, he must have said the above narration before he built.